Everyone, I've got a quick one-take video for you today to show you how to improve the braking performance on your bike. Now for this one in particular, it's a local lad who's brought his bike in. He enjoys his back brake a lot, does lots of skids. Dad has just replaced the tyre because there was no tread left. But basically, when he's braking, the brake lever, you have to take my word for it, goes all the way to the handlebar grips before there's even any hint of braking happening. And with it completely depressed, the brake lever, we can still move the wheel around just by freehand. Now there are two reasons for this. One is going to be because the brake pads are worn, and one is because the cable is stretched. Now if we look down here, you can see actually that there's an awful lot of tread left on the brake pads. So that isn't the issue. The issue must be that the cable itself has stretched. A lot of cables are quite cheap and mass produced, and after the first few hard presses, the cable does actually stretch a couple of mil. Over time, those mils increase, and there's your gap. Now, the non-tool way of doing it is really simple. You have what's called here a barrel adjuster on nearly all brake calipers. If you haven't got one here, you've almost certainly got one at your brake lever as well. The only difference is at the brake lever, you've got a lock nut, which just prevents the adjuster from moving as you're riding. Nevertheless, what you're going to do is to remove you're going to increase tension to the cable by moving this adjuster anti-clockwise, counterclockwise when you look up. Now I know that sounds counterproductive because intuitively this is loosening, but what it's actually doing is increasing tension to the cable. Can you see this caliper arm at the end of my finger moving closer to here? That is stretching the cable. Now I've undone this a hell of a long way, but if we have a look down between the brake pad and the disc, if you do that without even touching your brake lever and nothing really has happened, then the stretch is too much in my opinion, and I would actually adjust the cable. But if you're scared of using tools, if you're scared to muck about with the cables, then yes, you can do this. Just make sure you don't unscrew it so far that potentially you might compromise how much thread is in and it come out all together. You don't want to do that while you're braking. And similarly with the lever end as well, yeah, you could undo both a fair distance to allow this caliper arm to move closer. But if it's that bad, let's just do the cable thing. And here's how you do it. Make sure your barrel adjusters are all the way back as far as they can be. Let's get that done. Now it could be your cable is in really poor condition, then okay, you can replace the cable as well. I've got ample videos on my channel to show you how to do that, but in this case the cable's not too bad. Okay, once it's gone all the way in, I'm now going to back off probably about 3 turns. Then what we're going to do, using a almost certainly 5mm Allen key or hex key wrench, possibly a 10mm spanner or wrench, we're going to reduce the tension. You've seen the caliper arm just fly up then, so it's not holding the cable anymore. And this is where you sometimes would appreciate a third hand, but we're going to slide the caliper arm down as far as it will go, so the brake pads off camera are actually touching the disc. So we're going to do that. Look how much that's moved. And we're going to hold everything together while retightening this nut, if it's a nut that you've got. And now fairly tight so the cable won't put itself through. When we finish the job, we're going to tighten this up even more, because the last thing you want to do is brake hard and have the cable pull through the caliper, because you'll have no brakes. And if we now look at the travel, this is me trying to brake now, there is hardly any movement, literally just a few mil at the lever end. That's too much tension, and the brake pad, let's have a look, is almost certainly going to be touching the disc. Yeah, look, there's no gap at all. This is what we want, because now we're going to remove that tension by righty-tighty, putting the barrel adjuster back in, and then you'll have a bit of a gap. You can see this arm moving upwards. You'll have a bit of a gap between brake pad and disc. Far more travel now with the brake pad. And what I like to do is to squeeze the lever pretty hard, and that will just take out any stretch that is going to happen on the cable. So I'm putting really hard with both hands on the lever at the handlebar end. You can see already that's got a fair bit more movement. I'm then going to make sure this is as tight as it should be so the cable can't move. And there you are, there you're in business. Now if we go again, moving the camera for the gap, there should be a small gap now between brake pad, there we go, and disc, but not so much that it requires a huge amount of travel for the lever. And by the looks of it, that disc, or rather the caliper, could do with moving a little bit to the right, as you can see. So I'll adjust that as well. Again, you can see that on my other videos, but there we go. That's how to adjust the cable tension for your wheel for the braking when the braking performance is poor. Hopefully you can just use the barrel adjuster. If not, just like the caliper arm down the cable. Job's a good one, and we are job done. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, remember to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.